Hello, YouTube. We are back for another installment of Captain Aero, or Arrow, Aerodynamic. We all know the deal. And what we're doing here is the first wrap of the book. As you can see, this first wrap is in horrible condition. It is extremely brittle. Pieces are just falling off if you look at it wrong. So we definitely have a high mountain to travel up. So what do I want to do? What I want to do first is we're going to clean the cover. The first wrap just in water and Palmolive soap, and we're going to try to wash out the years of dirt and grime. Now I haven't worked on this publication, the interior, before. The cover came out wonderful, but I just want to make sure it can interact with water, that the inks they used when they published the book and manufactured the book are not water-based inks. I don't think they are. As you can see, I just have a plain Q-tip, and I'm taking a wet Q-tip and I'm rubbing it on the red of this fella's shirt here, and it doesn't look like any lift in color is coming up. So I think we're in good shape to do what I do with the water. This chunk fell off. We're not gonna try to save that, so I'll put it in my plastic container that contains a bunch of pieces of comics that sometimes you just can't save. So what I have here is a piece of Rame paper, not Hollytex, just Rame, and I am going to place the cover. I keep on saying cover. It's very early here in where I am. It's about 6:30 in the morning. So let's wake up, Jerry. Let's have another cup of coffee. So this is the first wrap. So what we did is we just put the first wrap on a piece of Rame. Excuse me. Now what I want to do, let's cover it up. We'll put a second piece of Rame, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put both pieces of Rame on my grate. Then we will get my container, which is, I just use a Tupperware. I know people use smaller trays, but this works for me. And we'll put the actual grate in the container. Now what I want to do is I want to do my soap. Actually, let's take this out, because people like to ask me on Instagram and YouTube, how much soap do I put in? I don't measure. This is about a gallon container. Actually, it's 3 liters. So those of you out there who are good in conversions, tell me what 3 liters is of water. Then this is the Palmolive. And like I said, people ask, how much do you put in? So I'll show you how much I put in. Boom. That looks good for now. And then what we'll do is we'll stir it up. Get it nice and soapy. And either I pour the soap in first, or the water then the soap. It makes no difference. And then let's pour the soapy water into the container. And this is why I like a high container, because it protects my workbench and my items around from getting wet. Then what we want to do is I'm going to slowly introduce the grate into my Tupperware container. Let's put another piece on just to weigh it down, and we'll slowly introduce it. And then what I may do is, after soaking it for a while, I'll take the top grate off and we'll let it soak free of the grates. So we're going to let this soak in the water with the Palmolive soap. We're going to let it absorb. I may agitate it like this every so often, but we're going to soak this, and already I see brown coming off of the first wrap of this cover. So I'm going to let this soak probably for about an hour. We're going to let it soak, and then after an hour I'll come back, we'll check the water, we'll see how it looks, and then we're going to do our flushing. So hang out, stay tuned, come back please, and I'll see ya with the advent of movie magic in about 1 second. Stay tuned. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, there are not too many ladies who watch my upload, but I say it anyway. Now, I am done soaking the first wrap of the book. I kept it soaking a little longer than an hour. I had it soaking for about 3.5 hours in the soap water solution. So what I want to do now is I want to rinse the cover. And it's very important, I feel, to rinse what you put into anything in relation to a book. What you put in, you must take out. So there is the first wrap. As you see, a few little pieces came off. It's expected. And what I'll do is I will put another piece of Rame on top. And I don't know if the camera is picking this up, but let's see if it can. The water is filthy. Filthy, filthy, filthy. And more filth and more impurities is going to come out of this, because I am going to rinse it with fresh water. And everyone who watches my uploads knows how I rinse it in my bathtub with fresh water, and I'll do that many, many, many times. So what we'll do now is I'm gonna go up, I'm gonna rinse it, I'll get rid of this dirty water, and then we'll bring it down and I will put it between my presses. We'll let it dry, and then the next segment will be this dried, or the first wrap dried. So stay tuned. Okay guys, we're back. I rinsed out the cover, first wrap, and I performed a pH test. And this is the strip that I used. And I am unhappy with the pH level of the paper. So if you look, we're about a 6. So that is acidic. And if we're doing this, we want to do it where the book will hopefully be preserved for future generations. So I want to do a deacidification, quick process with the first wrap. And I know it's a slippery slope, and it definitely is a slippery slope, because if I do it for the first wrap, I'm going to have to do it for every wrap. But I respect the book, and I respect Mike even more than the book, Night Tiger, so I have to do it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use my calcium hydroxide. I know there's different chemicals that people use. So basically this is what I have, this is what I use. I'm gonna get a different one. I'm gonna try here and there. There's different actual chemicals that people recommend. I'm not saying they're right or wrong, but this is what I have and I used in the past, and I'm happy with it. I'm gonna put 2 of these tablespoons in hot water. I'm not wearing gloves, so I recommend to anyone doing this to wear gloves, wear a mask. I'm not. I should or shouldn't. Personal preference, but no one's right or wrong in not doing it. Health is personal preference, right? And I don't do this frequently enough, I feel, to be harmed with continued exposure. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna mix it up in the warm water. As you can see, I did change my tub. This is my deacidification tub, when I used to call it deacidification. People used to laugh at me. Hey, I'm really not that educated. Was it 4, 5, 7 years post high school? I guess the schools that I went to were not good schools. I do win a lot of cases though when I do practice law. I'm a good lawyer. So what I'll do is we mix it up. We're gonna pour it in. All of it came out. And then I am going to soak the first wrap, giving it a little bath. I'm not using methyl cellulose because I'll show you what I'm gonna do in relation to methyl cellulose when I'm done with the process. So right now what we're doing essentially is just giving Tums, if you ever take Tums when you have heartburn, to the book, and hopefully we'll give it a little bath where the pH level will be raised, and I want to get it around 8 to 9. That's my understanding. 6 is acidic. We want to raise it, and then we also want to provide a preserve in here where it will last and continue to be a situation where the acid will be kept at bay. Okay, it's called an alkaline buffer. So that's what I'm doing. So let's soak this for a little bit. And the calcium hydroxide also acts as a mild lightening agent to the pages. So it will lighten it. Some people call it a bleach. Bleach is bleach in my opinion, but it does have bleaching effects. Not crazy bleaching effects, but it will lighten the cover. So let's see what happens. Let's soak this for a little bit. Like I said, maybe half an hour, 45 minutes, and then I'll show you what I'm gonna do with the methyl cellulose to strengthen the sheet. So stay tuned. Okay guys, we are back. The first wrap has been soaking for about a half an hour in the calcium hydroxide solution. One thing that I want to show you that I haven't shown in the past, you want to try to prevent the top of the water from hitting the book when you take it out. I know it's hard to do, but just like that. That is where the impurities are. It floats to the top. So right there, what we did was a deacidification of the actual cover. Stop saying cover, Jerry. Of the first wrap. Now, as you can see, the water is brown. It's a combination of, I believe, the acid coming out of the paper as well as some ink. It does come off, but hopefully this created an alkaline buffer and the pH is raised so this book will not deteriorate further. So we're done with that. Let's put this to the side. This I will discard. We'll get rid of that. So now, I know I usually say, do not, or I usually say, I want to try to take everything out that I put in. But with the calcium hydroxide, I want to keep it in the page. I don't want to rinse it out, because then it's defeating the purpose of adding it in order to act as an alkaline buffer to preserve the book. So I'm just going to blot it a little bit. I want to see if any color's coming off. No colors is coming off. But then we have the issue dealing with, well, what about methyl cellulose? Because that is something that we always added in the past to strengthen the paper. So I do it a little different now. And it may be a little aggressive, but let me stop the camera. I want to get everything set up so I can show you how I do it. Okay, I'm back. I have my brush. I also have my methyl cellulose where I'm gonna have to start making some more. What I want to do is I dip my brush in the methyl cellulose and I'm going to paint gently the whole side of the actual wrap. Now, if you did this with a cover after it was wet or soaked, you run risk that you're going to have color lift. I would not recommend doing this with actual covers, especially non-golden age covers. No way, Jose. But the interior newsprint, in my experience, is a little bit more resilient, and you don't get color lift like you do with the cover. So by doing this, hopefully what I am doing is strengthening the paper, the inside wraps of the book with the methyl cellulose. When it's wet, put it in, and we're gonna let it sit for a little bit before we put a piece of ramie on top. We don't want to do that immediately, because although the ramie does or should not stick, sometimes it will stick to the methyl cellulose, and it does create a situation where there could be possible color lift. So you see right now there's pieces flaking off. It's expected, and I wouldn't think any different with this inner wrap because it is very fragile. But I don't want to do a whole Tengojo wrap on every single page, but this hopefully will do the job and strengthen the pages by having the methyl cellulose being absorbed into the wet interior pages. So I'm going to do this, and this whole process I'm going to do for every single interior wrap. But this is just the preliminary steps. The next steps, I have to leaf cast every page. So if this was done and I was doing this for being paid, it would be very difficult, in my opinion, if I did this for a living, to come up with a price how you get compensated, because the amount of work that has to be performed on each one of these pages is tremendous. And I give credit for the individuals who do this on a professional basis. And I see sometimes that's why they say that it's a cost-benefit analysis, because you can't conserve books that aren't worth much. And sometimes the books that are worth much you can't conserve because it's just out of the ballpark with the cost that it would actually take. So I'm done painting this first wrap, and we're just gonna let it sit and we're gonna let it dry a little bit. And then when it dries a little bit, what I'll do is I will sandwich it between the ramie, and then we'll come back and we'll put it between our glass presses, and hopefully when it dries there's an improvement in the color and in the strength, and then we'll start working on our leaf casting pulp, because it's going to be very important to leaf cast this page to my standards, because I want to try to do the best I could. So that's it for this upload. Hope you enjoyed, and stay tuned.